Hey everybody, welcome back. It is time for another review. I will be reviewing Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. This is the second book in this series. The first one is Butcher and Blackbird. You may have heard a little bit about it. So I can actually review this without giving any spoilers to the first one, which I actually freaking love that you can talk about these two books independently, but they do, exist in the same universe. So make sure you read Butcher and Blackbird before you dive into this one. But we're going to talk about Leather and Lark because I have found my new toxic red flag boyfriend, and his name is Lachlan. And Lachlan is the main male character in this story, and then we have Lark, who is our female lead, and I loved Butcher and Blackbird. Ate it up, read it really quickly, loved every minute of it. For a recap, without giving spoilers, Butcher and Blackbird, the two main characters, they are two serial killers who kind of fall in love, and it's a whole thing of them being serial killers. So you know from jump that these are not going to be normal people, right? Lachlan and Lark, not going to be normal. Lachlan is the older brother of our first series, and I'm blanking on the names right now for Butcher and Blackbird. So he is actually kind of like a cleanup guy. So we first meet Lark. Again, we've kind of met her before in the first book, but we meet her, and she is actively trying to drive someone off a bridge and into the river for revenge, basically. And she has to call her dad to be like, help! I need help. And Dad's like, fine, I'll send my guys. So this is where we meet Lachlan. He's not having it. He just thinks that she's some spoiled rich girl who's messy, he's trying to clean up. Little does he know that she is Harley Quinn. Okay? That's the best way to describe Lark. She's a little bit manic pixie dream girl energy. So if you don't like that, you might not like her. I loved her because I pictured her as kind of a Harley Quinn character who's just a little bit unhinged, but you love that she's this little bit unhinged. So they meet, they don't get along. We flash forward, they're at the same party, but they don't remember each other. It takes them a minute to remember it, and then they realize oh, I can't like you, you're my enemy because you were a dick. And he was like, you're crazy, so here we go. And the whole story is just how they end up where they end up. They have just the most crazy ride. So Lark, I don't know if this is a spoiler. I'm going to say it, so hopefully it's not. And if it is, skip ahead. So Lark is also a serial killer, and she kills people for vengeance on other people. So she's not killing people who wronged her. She's killing people who wronged her friends, her family, so on and so forth. Like I said before, Lachlan is the cleanup guy. So they kind of almost make a perfect match. And we quickly learn that there is someone killing off people who are connected to Lark and her family, and it looks like they're trying to frame Lachlan and his family. So Lark's family, not squeaky clean. They're a company, they own their own business, it's a bakery. Grandma, Lark's grandma, she is a feisty woman. I like her. You'll learn to love her as you go as well, because she knows everybody's shit. She is the go-to person, and she just is super sharp. And so we have the Phantom, who is the perspective of the person who's trying to kind of orchestrate their own subplot and revenge in this story. So you will find out more about the Phantom as you go. And I have been doing some resin crafts lately, and I won't ever look at resin the same. The trigger warning for resin, correct. Absolutely fucking correct. You will definitely look at resin and go, oh, that's different. I do like that Brynne has a whole page and a half of what could be considered trigger warnings. Some of them are very tongue-in-cheek. You'll never look at pizza and beer the same way, and teeth, but then there's other moments where hey, this is actually deep stuff that's going to be in here, so if you don't want to read about it, you know now. But they're kind of, the serious ones are intermixed with the crazy off-the-wall ones, which if you have read Butcher and Blackbird, you remember those trigger warnings. They're almost my favorite part. My favorite introduction to these books is reading the trigger warnings and being like, what crazy shit is gonna be up our sleeves here. And this book does not disappoint. It is so good. I actually wrote down a quote, and I'm gonna read it because it was so good, that I feel like someone should make into a sticker. Sometimes karma needs a backup bitch, don't you think? And that's Lark. So that's kind of her vibe. She's just very all over the place and just does what she wants to do, and it's just so fun. And we see our first two, then we also see the other two. That'll be the third book, which has been announced. So if you want to pre-order that, it's Sickle and something. I can't think of it right now off the top of my head. I should have taken better notes for myself before I hit record, but here we are. And one of my favorite things in this book, I have a first edition, and it's on page 368. There's a typo. It's a little I. It says I step closer, and it's like this little bitty postscript? No, postscript. Anyway, little bitty I. So if you have a first edition, or you want to know if it's a first edition, look at page 268 if you don't want to look in the very front cover where it'll tell you first edition. But 10 out of 10, 5 stars. I actually liked this one more than I liked the first one. And I loved the first one. Do not get me wrong. I am throwing no shade here because she is amazing. But there's just something about Lachlan. He's a walking red flag. He is toxic. He is bad news bears. But so good. Highly, highly recommend. Go read Butcher and Blackbird and then followed up with Leather and Lark. You will not be disappointed. But please do read the trigger warnings because there are some like serious content inside of her like weird serial killer things. But also just know that these books are about serial killers and cleanup guys. So there's going to be violence. So be prepared for that. Go read, find out why I love Granny so much, and Lark and Lachlan. And if you do the audiobook, Lachlan is Irish, and everyone says the accent is phenomenal in the audiobook. Now, I do preface that I've heard that the audiobook narrator is a little bit problematic, and that they are possibly working to redo those with a different character, different Irishman, so be aware of that. I haven't deep dove into why he's problematic. I've just been told there are issues with this narrator in the real world outside of his narrations. But everyone loves the audiobooks if you like to listen to an Irishman read to you. Down your alley. I read the physical copies. So go check it out. And I'll see you again soon.